All right, we are recording now for the demo on Texturing 2, which we will be texturing a legally distinct Brick Dude toy, my own creation of character. So to access our legally distinct Brick Dude toy, we need to go ahead and click on the assignment. You'll see a link to the Maya project. When you click on that, it'll open up the zip file for the project. You have to then hit open in a new window, or it's not going to let you hit the download button. So then you can hit download, boom. It'll download a zip file for you. You can see I've done this a couple times today. And then if I double click this, it will give me a new project folder. So mine says 4 because I've done this, once for demo and 3 other times for actual practice in class. So we have this folder. This is where the stuff that we need lives. So I'm going to open this up so you can see in a moment. So we have a couple things in here. One, I have given you faces for a later part of the assignment, and the floor underneath the character in there. And then in the scenes folder is our Lego dude. So let's connect our project in Maya. So I'm in Maya. Over here on the left side, you'll see current project. It's most likely going to be set to your Ganyu project. Hit set project. And again, when you set a project, you just need to find the correct containing folder. So in my case, this is the latest one. So I'm on Brick Dude 4. And I hit set. When I do that, I can now open, and it will look in that folder's scenes folder for the file. And then boom. So here's our legally distinct brick toy. So if it has any resemblance to any trademarked products, that is your opinion and is not based in fact. So with our legally distinct brick toy here, we are going to basically be UV mapping this chest piece here and the head today. The other parts you can add colors to. If you really want to get crazy, you can UV map them too, but not required in any stretch. So we are just working on these two. These are the two things that you need to UV map for our assignment today. So let's get started. So we have our object in here. We have our model. We want to now create our UV map. So if we remember from our homie, who I want to on Mars 3D, shouts out for your video, very good. We remember our 5 steps that we talked about last week. Now, step 1 is typically already going to be done because step 1 is the shortcut of saying our model is completely finished being modeled. We have no more changes to the geometry. Then we can delete our history and freeze our transformations like he was talking about. But basically, that's just saying we're done making changes to the model. We're ready to start texturing. So we're going to get steps 2 through 5. So we're going to now generate some UVs. And unlike when we were making the dice, we're going to actually have to cut a seam or a couple seams when we're working on the head. Now, the body will be fairly simple, much more like the dice we did last week. So we'll add some seams on the head though. We'll unfold our shells, and then we'll lay them out, right? So we're on step 2, right? We're going to generate our UVs. So if you look at our notes, we're going to... I'm going to go over this one. We're going to select some faces, and then we're going to create our shells, add cuts, just like he says here, step number 3. I just combined it in with step 2. And then unfold and arrange. So our order of operations, select, create, unfold, arrange. So let's start by selecting. So we are working on the torso first. I would also suggest using isolate select, so that way you can see only what you're working on. I'm working on the torso piece. I'm going to go ahead and switch my workspace over to the UV editing workspace. And so now I have my model over here, UV layout over here, and our tools here. So as a reminder, by default, if you need to turn these things on, shaded shells are turned on by pressing 5. So that will allow you to see them overlapping in the UV space. Number 6, you will see turns on displaying the texture in the UV space. But then you need to manually toggle and click on the little checkerboard. Now the checkerboard is on it. So now we're ready to start doing our UV mapping. Make sure that if it's not... so are you in the UV editing workspace?
No, I have no idea.
Up in the top right, change this from general to UV editing. Yep. So here we are. So we are ready to start following our steps here. So we're going to select the faces we want in our new shell. For the body, that's pretty easy because we're just going to break these all up into 4 different shells like we did the dice. So I'm going to start with the front face. Boom. So we have it selected. Step number 2, create the UV shells using camera or planar projection, then cut if we need to. So we're just going to select this, and then like last week, we'll pop open create, and we're just going to use the camera. That's fine with me. So it's going to be a little slanted. That's okay. So we've now selected our face. We've now projected it as a shell, or created shells, I should say. Let me get this off to the side. And then we're going to switch into UV selection mode for this shell and double click it. So we're just working with this shell here and the UVs. And then we'd go over here and hit unfold. Boom. And now we do not, like we were last week with the dice, to hit straighten on this one. Because you'll see when if I hit straighten, it's going to make it back to a square, and then it's going to break the texture, right?
Wait, I'm sorry, Smart. How'd you get the grid platform, the grid pattern and everything?
Turn on, activate up here the checkerboard,
Okay.
and then the button next to it turns on, displaying it in the UV space.
Okay, and the second question, I can't move the slot.
Flame. Okay, so the thing that will happen with the camera-based, though, if you use that, is that you need to straighten these things out once they've been unfolded, but not straighten the UVs. We want to, what they call, orient. So we have now done select. We created shells using the camera projection. We unfolded the shells. Now we're going to arrange them. So we're going to orient the shells under the arrange tools. So if I pop open arrange and layout, we see orient shells here. We click that. Boom. It'll rotate it so that it's appropriately oriented with the left, right, up, down. Boom. So there's one. Now we can come back here. Again, we're in face mode out here. We select. So we have our face selected. We want to make a new shell. Then in our create tools, we choose the appropriate mapping tool. So for this one, again, I'm going to use camera based. We'll talk about planar in a second. So camera based, boom, it's kind of slanted. That's okay. Go to UV mode, double click so that we have the UV selected. Now we're going to unfold, boom, and then we orient shells, boom. So again, select, create, unfold, arrange. So in this case, this is the bottom one, or the back, so I'll just leave this here. So now we have our front and back. Now we need to do the sides. Now here's where I want to introduce to you folks the idea of planar projections. So rotating around your object for every face or shell is going to get old after a while, especially if you know which direction it's already facing. For example, we can tell that this side is facing in the X direction because the world-oriented manipulator is telling us, hey, the red arrow is this direction. The red arrow represents the X-axis. So if I know I want to project this face on the X-axis, I can do what we call is a planar projection. And that is simply put just using the explicit camera axes, or excuse me, the axes of the world to project a new UV shell. So if I hover over this, let me zoom in over here so you can see. When I hover over this, it's going to tell you, hey, you can use the different mouse buttons to do different projections based on which button you use. So starting from the bottom, it tells me, hey, if you use the right mouse button, that will project from the Z-axis. If you press with the middle mouse button, it will project with the Y-axis. And then because it's fancy, it says the left mouse button will be using your current settings, but it also tells you, hey, holding shift and the left mouse button will bring up those settings. So I'm going to pop those open real quick. Let me zoom out. I'm going to move this over here. Right? So it's telling me I have this set to X, right, by default. So that's a way of telling me, hey, with this button, if I use the correct mouse button that I want to, I can project without needing to move my camera, right? So again, right mouse button projects from Z, middle mouse button from Y, or left mouse button from X. Now, you can see I didn't need to move my camera, right? It projected it from the correct angle without me rotating. So just showing again from out here, zoomed out. So right click, middle mouse button, left click, right? So you want to pick the one that most accurately looks at it. So in this case, the left mouse button projecting from the X gives me this. So that's our select and then our create. I'll move this over here. We're going to go into UV mode. Double click the UVs on the shell, unfold, and then I shouldn't need to orient these or straighten these, so I'm just going to leave it alone. Looks good to me. Same thing over here. It's the opposite side. Stands to reason this is also the x-axis, so I'm going to left click to project this. Now, the red is just telling me, hey, this is actually backwards, by the way. So it's projecting from the opposite direction.
I can't click anything on the UV.
We're back in it. So the red shell just means this needs to be unfolded or flipped over in general, but unfolded. So I'm going to go to my UV mode. We just double click it. And when I hit unfold, boom, we're all good, right? It is upside down now, though. So you can flip this over if it bothers you and orient it. Yay! So again, select, create, unfold, arrange. 4 steps. And then, so right, I can grab this face up here. I'll just do it quick and dirty, camera based. We're gonna switch to UV mode, double click, unfold, orient. Blammo. This is the top. This one is the bottom. I don't even need to know. Camera based, blammo. Double click the UVs, unfold the UVs, arrange the UVs by orienting them, blame. So before I move forward to doing the head, let me finalize and arrange my UV shells now that we're done making shells. So again, we want to keep a certain amount of logic to how we arrange things. So I'm going to leave the top and bottom set, or the back and front set as top and bottom here. And then these ones, which I'm not going to put, I know I'm not going to put any info on them. I'm not going to make these very big. So this is the top and the bottom. And then these are the left and the right. It doesn't really matter, but just for sake of saying, oh, this is the left side. So let me put the left side on the left. And blah, blah, blah. And there we have it. So again, you want to pack all your shells in the 0 to 1. Blam. So that's good. So now I can go to the head. Now the head is quicker in a sense, but slightly, it's going to be more complicated. So the whole object, we're going to just project this whole object together. So I have it in object mode. I'm just going to slam camera based. You can see that it now has rounded UVs in the UV editor. So we're not going to worry too much about the distortion that's going to show up on this. If you remember from our gentleman on Mars, I want to make sure on Mars, right? He told us, hey, if you're not careful, if you don't add too many seams or enough seams, you will get UV distortion. We're not going to worry about that today. So just bear with me. We're just trying to do basic UVing. So we have created our UVs, but before we can go unfold them, before we can exit the create step, you will see I also added, then cut whichever seams you deem necessary for good unfolding. So this is where you, as the tool operator, as the Maya operator, you must be smarter than Maya, because Maya is very stupid. Okay? It wants to make mistakes. So we need to help it not make mistakes. That's why we need to cut in the seams for it. So, let's think about this object. The first thing you should know that you need to cut off are that the top and bottoms are very obviously not facing the same direction as the rest of the object. So let's slice off the top and bottom. So I'm just in edge mode, selecting it out here, but then back in my UV editor, we're done creating, but we are now going to cut before we unfold. So now I'll go ahead and just cut, have these edges selected, cut, go into my object mode because I want to isolate again so that I can see the bottom. Grab the edge around the outside of the bottom.
Wait, I'm sorry.
Cut.
Where'd you put the cuts?
Around the top and the bottom. So if you select the edges at the very top ring on the outside of the stubby part. Yeah. And then, so those are the two easy ones. Now, let me turn this off for a second. We want to make a seam, and this is sort of to the point I was making about like what On Mars was saying in his video about modern texturing practices and how seams are not as big of an issue. For what we're doing, we are going to have to be thoughtful about where we place our seams because we're not using a more advanced procedural texture generation engine. We're just doing it raw in Photoshop. We're just doing it live, as Bill O'Reilly would say. So we are going to go in the back, and we want to cut our seam in the back so it's not visible, or is mildly visible at best. And we're going to select this edge here on the back of the head. I'm holding down Shift and then double clicking along the same loop going down. Blam. And so that's going to select all of these in between from the top to the bottom. And we'll cut those as well. So now we have seams around the top and the bottom and then down the back middle. Now, that is the correct way to cut this object. We could go in and add in more seams, as On Mars was saying, and that will allow it to unfold and fix some of this distortion we're going to end up seeing up here on the top. But what will happen first is if we just try to go ahead and slam our unfold button like we've been doing, blammo, Maya is going to get very confused. Because Maya is not super sharp when it comes to these kind of rounded objects. So see how it made this sort of gooey, scrunched up one. So no, that's not what we want to do. What we want to do is tell Maya to be thoughtful about how it unfolds. So in most instances, just hitting the unfold button is going to be okay. However, we are trying to unfold this wrapped object, and that object is wrapped horizontally, right? So if we were trying to unwrap this like a label, can label, like he showed in the video, we couldn't pull on it vertically to stretch it out, but we can unwrap it horizontally. So to unwrap horizontally, we are unfolding along U. U is our horizontal direction in the UV space. And we want to tell it, unfold along U first. And you can see it unwraps. Then we tell it, now you can do V. Then we do U again, V again, U again, V again, U again, V again. You can do it a couple times until you think it looks decent. So that looks pretty good. The squares look all right. Now we're going to use our Straighten UVs button. Now, this is where it's going to make some goofy choices with the top parts because we didn't add in a bunch of extra seams. And that's okay. So, like, you can see there's some distortion going on up here. Oh, this isn't as clean as it was on the other ones. I wonder why. Maybe because I unfolded it more before I straightened the UVs. Interesting. I'm going to play with that hypothesis real quick, folks. Okay, so we have an unfold along V, blammo, straighten. Oh, would you look at that? That looks a lot better, actually. That's weird. Anyway, so I just unfolded it in each direction once, basically, and then I did the straighten UVs. So that looks good. We're mostly just worried about the face. This is what I was talking about, where it's going to do some stupid stuff. We're not worried about these issues right now. We're just doing some basics. So we got that. Now I need to go grab this UV shell somewhere in here. This one. Oh, it's over here. And I want to go into UV mode. Blam. These ones we can just unfold. Luckily, these are pretty easy for Maya to figure out. So now we have the head, these two top portions, right? And then this is where the face is going to go. So I'm going to just take these and put these down here, scale them down. Take this shell, move it up. All right. And so now our objects have both been UV mapped. Oh, whoops, I didn't put this in the 0 to 1. Tee. 0 to 1. There we go. So now I'm ready to send these over to Photoshop. So we're going to go ahead in object mode out here. We grab our object. It's going to show you the UV maps. Under the image menu in the UV editor, UV snapshot. Boom. Now it wants to know, where am I saving this and what format. So first, we want to choose where it's saving. You should make sure that this is ending up in the correct projects folder. So it should be in your texturing 2 assignment, in the project folder, in the images folder. Images are where images leaving Maya live. So in this case, this is my head UV for the demo. And I'm going to hit save. So it's going in that project's images folder, head UV demo .png. So choose PNG. Size and tile is okay. When you hit apply and close, if you have it selected in object mode, it should tell you it's saved out a file. So now we'll do this one. Image, snapshot, same thing, except this will be body, UV, demo, save, apply and close. And now I can go ahead and 1, I'm going to save this because I don't want to lose my UV maps now that I've made them. And 2, I'm going to go back to general workspace because when I next come back into Maya, I'm just doing texturing. So now we're in Photoshop. Let's go ahead and in our images folder, bring in the body UVs. Now, the first thing is that it's going to be very hard to see the lines, as I mentioned last week. So I suggest from this little cut in half circle menu here, the top one is adding a solid color. Add a solid color. This is already set to yellow because of the Lego head. But then just put like a black or something, some darker color. And if you put it underneath your lines, it'll give you a baseline so that you can see the outside of your UV shells. So now we got to put some stuff on the shirt. I already got a couple things picked out. So we are going to put this picture of the professor from Tellurian Community College onto this shirt. So I copied the image from Google, Command V for paste, and then I'll simply scale it up. I know that the front of the shirt is the top one here, so I'm lining it up with that. And I want to get this to fit the whole thing. That looks great. Now I'm just going to take my marquee tool, make a big ass box, and we're going to mask it to there. And doesn't matter if it goes outside the box, it just matters that it doesn't go over other shells. Now I'm going to put it back on the t-shirt. So I believe I heard Prof say this is his favorite card. Prof, I'm sorry if you see this and it's wrong. And now we paste that in. And make the Maro Regery bigger. And then again, we're just going to worry about making a rectangle and masking it. There we go. And then because I'm like this, I want to make it match the style of my shirt, which I didn't actually plan on when I left the house, but I realized I'm wearing a Magic shirt, so I'm going to put this on the back. So, it's funny how that works sometimes. I'll give my flowers to the Teddy Fresh Magic the Gathering crossover. Very good clothes. Even if I don't watch the show anymore, great clothes. So, we got boom, boom, boom. Paste it in. We'll make it smaller. Put this down here. Boom, boom, boom. Oh, you know what? Go up. Oh, we're cutting out the face of Regery, but that's okay. So there we go for that. Now the other thing I'm going to do, just because it makes it easier for me, is I'm not going to put anything else on the side or the back or the top of the shirt, but what I will do is I'm going to choose this color fill that I added, the solid color. I'm going to pick up the gray from the t-shirt. So now the t-shirt should have a uniform color on the sides. Okay? So that's one set of UVs or textures prepared. So I'm going to turn off the UV lines so that I don't see them on the model. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is just straight up save this. So I'm going to save body UV demo Photoshop document in case I need to come back and make changes. So that's step number 1. Step 2, though, would be to save a copy of this, which I will put as a JPEG. And this is no longer an image because I have edited it. It is going back into Maya. So in my project folder, files going back into Maya are source images. So I'm going to go ahead and put this in there. I don't need the copy portion added to it. Whoops. I'll put -D for diffuse, as we'll talk about. Hit OK. So that's one set of textures prepared. I'll close this. The head will go much quicker. So I'll bring in the head. Blammo. And so down here, let me go ahead and add my solid color. My solid color, I already have my active color over here is already set to yellow, so it's just going to make it yellow. So I'm fine with that. I'll put it underneath it, right? So we're going to make this dude's head yellow, but we do also want to add a face. So I put these in the source images. Here are some example Lego faces. You can find other faces on Google you want to put on there. That's fine. We are going to put a face on there. So I'm going to drop this in here. Let's see. I'm going to do this. I'll do this face now. All right. So boom. Again, we're just going to make a little nice, easy marquee mask. Blam. So now we have just this face. And then there's where you have to sort of do a little sleuthing, is that there are 20 faces around on this cylindrical object. We did cut it directly down the back, which means we got to find the middle. The middle would be 10 faces in, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, which means this is the midpoint, right? So I'm going to move my face. Blam. And then up a little bit. Boom. Fits perfect. Turn off my lines. This is all my texture is. File. Save, same as we did last time. Boom, head UV demo.photoshop. Okay. And then now when we do save a copy, this copy goes into our project's source images, JPEG, adding /D for diffuse, which basically just means color. And then, now back in Maya, all we need to do is apply some materials and attach the materials to, or textures to the materials. So I'm going to start with the head, select it in object mode, holding down right click, going down to assign favorite material and choosing Lambert. So make a new Lambert. Now, we have been changing the color of these things using the little color browser the whole year. We're adding a file. So we want to click the checkered box and let it know the fourth one down, we are adding a file. Then it just wants to know, where is the file? Well, if it's saved in your project source images and everything is set up appropriately, when you hit that folder, it should look and you should see your textures. So this one's head, UV demo, blammo. So there's the head. And then here, same thing. We're going to assign a new Lambert for this one. That Lambert is going to get a file. Then the folder, body, blam. So now, dude's got a new shirt and a face. And then for these other body parts, so this is all extraneous. So if this is how you get your file to look, you are doing well. The other stuff I'm going to show right here is extraneous, but do skip to the end to see how I want you to turn it in. So let's say, we're not adding this to our UVs, so I'm just going to put a Lambert on here, and we're going to make it black. I'll make it a little lighter than pure black because this isn't also pure black. Cool. And then the pants, we'll select all three of these, assign Lambert. This one, I'm going to do khaki again. I like the khaki look. So there we go. Now we got our dude. And then again, this is all just optional for fun stuff, but I did go through and make sure the dude is posable. So you can go through, move his legs. If you're on one of the legs, and like when we were working on the grouped rig earlier in the first semester, if you select a leg and you hit up, it's going to go to the group that connects to everything below the hips, so you can spin his legs around. And vice versa, if you click on one of the arms, hit the up arrow, it will go to the arm. You hit the up arrow again, it goes to the whole upper body. Right? So you can do this. You can do this. Up arrow. Right? So it's up to you if you want to pose your dude after you put something on him. But when you are done, make sure you save this once, that everything's connected. When you go to submit this to me, what I would like back is this folder, right? So this one says text 2 brick dude. Mine says 4, right? You're going to go ahead and just select the folder and do compress. Boom, zip file. This is the file that you need to rename appropriately. This compressed file. The texture files do not need to have your name and period number on them because you're giving me the whole project. The project should have your name and period number on it. So once you've compressed your completed project, you can select it and hit enter, or you can of course right click it and do rename. But you're going to rename it, and then as we do, put your period number. So I'll put 357. I'm going to put my last name, and then this would be text 2. Boom. Totally valid title. This zip file is what you submit back to me. So because I need not only just your textures, but I do now also need your UV mapped model, because your UV maps are all going to be different, right? So that's why I need the whole project back. All right. That's it for the demo. Good luck.